Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick preview for the Sony CyberShot RX100 IV. This camera is priced at a little under $1,000 US and will start shipping sometime this summer, I think August, much like the A7R Mark II and RX10 Mark II that were recently announced alongside it. But what's key about this is that, if you noticed, this is the Mark IV, unlike the RX10 or the A7R, which are in their second generation. Believe it or not, the RX100 really is at its fourth gen refresh, and that's amazing. It says a lot about the popularity and success of the RX100, which originally debuted at $650 US and again has made its way almost to $1,000. And while the price tag may be a shocker, and I think it personally is, I can tell you that there is no other point-and-shoot camera in its class that will match up to it with regard to still or video capability. And that's because it is utilizing a new sensor. It is a 1-inch sensor, but the key here is it has a stacked DRAM chip on board. The RX10 Mark II also sports this exact same sensor design, and that allows high-speed photography, video, more importantly, that didn't exist on the previous generation. So 40 times super slow-mo is a product of this new enhancement. It is a backlit sensor. 4K video capture is available now, something that no RX100 before it had the capability of furnishing, and I think was a desired feature for every consumer. That is a direct readout of the sensor, much like the RX10 Mark II, and Sony likes to point out that this is the world's #1 most selected sensor, or their brand really, or this 1-inch. Either way, kind of one and the same in terms of Sony marketing the 1-inch sensor to other vendors for utilization, kind of like Panasonic with the FZ1000, the LX100, among others. So what we're looking at here is really a new beast altogether. Do I think it justifies the jump in price? I mean, realistically, the biggest advantage here is the 4K video capture. The slow-mo, I think, is something that a lot of people will appreciate because, after all, it does achieve some incredible results, which you're going to see right now. Something that, again, is shared by the RX10 Mark II as well. And it's something that you could not do with any Sony camera. In fact, you can't really do with any camera in this class. This is really, in my opinion, without even getting it in my hands yet, clearly the new king of the pocket camera point-and-shoot world. A lot of people will say, well, this isn't quite pocketable, but the results you're seeing here are very impressive. Even if you never intend to actually use the super slow-mo, I can't see a good reason for saying, no, I can live without it. Something, again, that you'll see with the RX10 Mark II also lives inside this smaller, again, more pocket-friendly camera, and that is Sony's anti-distortion Shudder. This is all, again, a product of the refresh, something that they were aware needed to be implemented for sharper photographs if they were really going to sell this new high-speed photography. I won't call it gimmick, but theme. In terms of shooting in bright conditions, this is something that both the RX10 Mark II and this camera will do, at least as per Sony, very well. The high-speed continuous shooting, we're up to 16 frames per second. I mean, that is simply bonkers. In terms of how well it's going to perform, how well the autofocus is going to lock on, it'll be very interesting to see. But this is, again, a feature of the RX100 Mark IV that I really couldn't have expected. I think the most obvious update was really 4K video. I didn't know Sony had this. Well, we heard rumors of stacked sensor design, but no one exactly knew that it was going to be a DRAM chip on board and utilize or provide so much more in terms of performance and flexibility. The 4K video that you're able to capture here, I mentioned, is basically a direct readout of that 1-inch sensor, and it is based around the XAVCS codec like every other Sony 4K Ultra HD capturing camera, video, or now in the still world where we have a hybrid experience going on. The 100 megabit rate is there. So the key difference, though, between this and something like the RX10 Mark II is that I believe the UHD clips are capped at 5 minutes. This is probably due to overheating, more so than Sony trying to, segment the price points and really keep customers to different points depending on their needs. Because of the size of the body of this camera. That's what really makes me question that. When you look at the RX10 Mark II, on the other hand, you're looking at I believe I think it's limited to 15 minutes, and the only way you get up to that hair under 30 is by stepping into the A7R Mark II, which is a mirrorless full-frame camera, not comparable to either of these. We still have that built-in OLED XGA viewfinder that was in the RX100 Mark III, so a welcomed reappearance of that. I'm glad they didn't decide to ditch it, because I think it's a great thing to have on a camera that really has uncompromising quality, both in the video and, still and now in the video world as well. And I really can't see any good reason to avoid this camera other than its very expensive price, because otherwise it seems to be a dream. Wi-Fi, NFC on board, I'm expecting similar battery life. Of course, a whole host of variety of different accessories, but that's not what we're really focused on here today. It's all about, the features, the specifications, and whether or not it's justifiable at the price point. So I think that while this is compelling, out of all of Sony's updates, this, in my opinion, is, I'm not going to say the most overpriced, but it is a pretty significant jump, and that's not to in any way pretend that the A7R Mark II didn't take a $1,000 price jump, because it did. But I think that all of these cameras, well, specifically the A7R Mark II and the RX100 Mark IV, have taken on a different role than they had in the past, whereas something like the RX10 Mark II, even though it did see a significant update, it isn't necessarily going to change the world the way a camera like this is going to force competitors to try to bring something to the table, which they've tried over and over again over roughly 4 years now, with literally no success. Not 4 years, 3 years. And that says a lot about what the RX100 represents and how well Sony has done with this pocket cam that, much like the RX10 revitalized the bridge market, the RX100 set the standard for the point-and-shoot market, which was pretty much dying until this, what many called overpriced point-and-shoot camera, hit the market. And so many customers fell in love with it, and in fact ditched heavier gear or made it a B camera for when they knew they didn't want to carry heavy gear but still wanted amazing image quality. And that's because it still has an incredibly bright, fast lens, Zeiss glass, of course, and that is really the lens to sensor combination is what makes this camera brilliant, or should, much like all of the RX100s before it. Same thing goes for the RX10. So the key here is the improved overall speed of this device because of that DRAM stack design, and then also getting that 16 frames continuous, the 4K video capture, all in a body that is the same. So a big lineup of new cameras, or I should say a big announcement of these three. I'll call them the big three, because that is quite literally what they are. And I know that at this point, everyone else in the marketplace, manufacturers specifically, have to be scrambling to try to figure out how they're going to beat Sony, whether it comes down to pricing and specifications or just pricing. And I really think that's the only place they can, since Sony is the creator of all of this technology, and no one else right now in DI is anywhere near as innovative as what Sony has been doing. Autofocus will be the area of contention on all three of these models, but I have a feeling that at least the cyber shots are going to do a very good job. The R Mark II, another story altogether, but again, this was all about the RX100 Mark IV, which I think is just going to continue its, carrying that torch of its predecessors, a lineage that really is unmatched and seems like it's going to continue to be unmatched now with the new not just trend-setting, but standard-setting RX100 Mark IV. So really excited to eventually get this in my possession, give all of you a full real-world review. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.